everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be dialing in from around the world. Thank you all for joining and spending the next hour with us for today's webinar, Leveraging AI-Powered Automation to Enhance Performance and Minimize Costs in Financial Services IT, presented by IT Novarica Group. I'm Caitlin Labby, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. We'll be starting the webinar shortly, but first, let me just cover a few quick housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded, and a link to view the recording on demand will be available after the session. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so please feel free to submit your questions at any time during the webinar using the questions feature located in the GoToWebinar toolbar to the right of your screen. It is now my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. Stuart Rose is a strategic advisor for IT Novarica Group's P&C insurance practice. He is responsible for market research and delivering strategic advice on applying data, analytics, and technology within the insurance industry. He has been responsible for go-to-market strategies, product marketing, and application development, and has extensive experience working with insurance companies across the globe. He is a regular contributor to insurance publications, frequently speaks at industry conferences, and is co-author of the book Executive Guide to Solvency II. Stuart is joined today by Tom Murphy, Chief Marketing Officer at Turbonomic. So without further ado, I'll turn the mic over now to Stuart for further introductions to Tom and to dive into today's content. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you enjoy today's webinar. Stuart, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Caitlin. And again, thank you all for joining us today for this webinar. So, where I really want to start the discussion really is, what is the state of the financial industry today when we look at the IT priorities and challenges out there? So this slide is actually based on a survey of about 100 different insurance executives across both the life and the property and casualty industry. Now, I know these figures are for insurance, but I do think that they represent probably very similar and consistent across all of the financial services. So maybe a little bit of explanation. When we talk around and we indicate core, what we really mean there is those sort of everyday transactional systems, whether it are loan origination systems, banking applications, underwriting, claims, and just general IT infrastructure. And you've got data, and really that covers a whole wide range of applications, whether it's data warehouse, business intelligence, predictive analytics, as well as sort of third-party data applications. Security, of course, that includes all the software and services related to security, firewalls, encryption testing, audits. And I would argue, if you look at this, that probably the banking world is probably one area where there's probably a lot higher percentages are from the insurance industry, because there's no doubt that they have more rigor requirements out there than what the insurance industry does. So if we're looking at the different categories, what are the conclusions I think you can get from this slide? Well, certainly one thing is certainly overall project priorities, I think, have been consistent with prior years. So this is probably no different this year to what 2021 was and before that. Although I don't think it's actually indicated on this slide, but what we did find was the IT budgets have increased slightly in the last 2 to 3 years. Now, whether that's a consequence of inflation and what we've got at the moment, or whether it's some of the sort of different priorities that are driving that with digitalization. So again, if you look at this slide, so when you look at the spendings we've got out there, you can see that certainly core is a huge amount of their budgets. Then you've got digital is about 20%, and then data and security is out there. Like I said, I think probably from the banking side, security and digitalization are probably higher percentages than what we got indicated on this slide.